It's a huge conundrum, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because from Keir Starmer's perspective, the Prime Minister, he wants the King to essentially butter up President Trump because
to King Charles, and this is interesting because he did the opening of Parliament and he had to read out what the Prime Minister was saying.
Can these world leaders go grovelling on their knees before a man who, let's be frank, they don't really respect?
It being a monarch is a hereditary thing, so anything that, if you're getting rid of things that are hereditary, it doesn't really...
It happened in private, or at least it was meant to. But now, word has leaked, and Britain is buzzing. Nigel Farage, never one to stay quiet when he smells betrayal, allegedly confronted King Charles himself in what insiders are calling the most brazen royal encounter since the days of Princess Diana. The topic? A whispered Trump-style backroom deal between Keir Starmer and the Crown that, according to Farage, threatens to erode the very sovereignty of the United Kingdom.
King Buckingham Palace not happy with Sir Keir Starmer, that he handed over that letter to the King to the President even in front of the cameras.
The confrontation was brief, heated, and completely unexpected. Sources say it took place during a closed-door royal event, a diplomatic reception at Buckingham Palace, attended by politicians, ambassadors, and senior royals. Farage, flanked by his Reform UK allies, wasn't supposed to approach the monarch directly, but in true Farage fashion, he broke protocol, and the topic wasn't a pleasantry about the weather or an awkward nod to national service. No, it was about what Farage has now dubbed the Starmer surrender. According to those in the room, Farage leaned in and, without flinching, asked King Charles what he thought of Labour's alleged plans to enter into a US-style executive agreement with Brussels, one that bypasses parliamentary debate.
I think for the country, and I'm wondering what the direction of travel is with that, because that's a big move to just suddenly do one person. He needs to hold a referendum or something like that.
Mimics Trump-era unilateralism and quietly signs away control over British trade and immigration policy. The King, ever the diplomat, did not respond directly, but those watching say his face hardened, his smile vanished, and the air in the room changed. It wasn't the question itself that caused the stir. It was who asked it, and who it was asked to. A monarch, constitutionally barred from engaging in politics, now dragged into the storm.
Has done in changing who goes to
and also, obviously, King Charles, it being a monarch is a hereditary thing.
And all because Nigel Farage decided Britain's sovereignty was worth one more line being crossed. By morning, the tabloids were on fire. Farage confronts King. Crown in crisis. Staring down the monarch.
It's a huge conundrum, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because from Keir Starmer's perspective, the Prime Minister, he wants the King to essentially butter up President Trump because
The palace refused to comment. So did Labour. But Farage, he didn't hold back. On GB News later that night, he confirmed it all. Yes, I asked His Majesty the question every real patriot in this country wants answered, he declared. If Keir Starmer thinks he can quietly sign away our sovereign rights while hiding behind handshakes and silence, he's got another thing coming. And if the King knows about it, then the people deserve to know that too.
And the United Kingdom. But of course, he has to act on the advice of the United Kingdom. Anyway, fast forward to the last couple of minutes.
To King Charles, and this is interesting because he did the opening of Parliament and he had to read out what the Prime Minister was saying.
The backlash was immediate and split down party lines. Tory MPs called Farage's move disrespectful, outrageous, and destabilising. Labour surrogates called it a Trumpian stunt designed to make headlines. But Farage's base? They exploded with praise. Finally, someone holding the monarchy and the establishment accountable.
And their way of behaving towards the royal family will be very different from what he feels about how people should be behaving.
One supporter wrote. He said what we're all thinking. But the deeper issue isn't just about optics. It's about what Farage is alleging. That Keir Starmer, in pursuit of post-Brexit stability, is crafting a secret agreement that mirrors Donald Trump's strategy.
Can these world leaders go grovelling on their knees before a man who, let's be frank, they don't really respect.
About that, because most of us know that Starmer was against the royal family for a very long time.
Bypassing Parliament to fast-track foreign policy initiatives, centralising power in Number 10, and quietly binding Britain to EU-style regulations under a different name. Some call it fiction. Others, particularly those inside Farage's Reform UK, claim to have documentation, drafts of legal language, early-stage communiques between Labour aides and EU intermediaries. Nothing concrete has surfaced.
It's good that they've started with loads to do, but actually you really have to think about these things carefully, and you have to think what Britain is really like.
Yet. But if even half of it is true, the implications are staggering. Why would King Charles be involved at all? According to Farage's allies, the concern is that the monarchy is being used as soft political cover. Starmer reportedly plans to secure royal endorsement for the non-treaty alignment deal before ever bringing it to a public vote, framing it as a gesture of national unity. In other words, no debate, no referendum, just ceremony and smiles. Farage calls it the greatest democratic betrayal since Maastricht. And now, the palace is caught in the middle. The king, barely a year into his reign, is facing mounting questions from the public and the press. Is he aware of the deal? Is he neutral? Was he blindsided by Farage's ambush? Or worse, was he warned?
I think
he cares so little about what King Charles thinks that he used it to his advantage and leveraged that relationship with it.
It's the latter.
Starmer, for his part, has gone silent. He's refused to address the story directly, instead deflecting questions with vague statements about ongoing dialogue with our European partners and a vision for global cooperation. But to Farage, that's code for appeasement, for surrender, for selling out the very Brexit he helped deliver. As the political fallout continues, even long-time observers are stunned. One senior political analyst said, "I've seen a lot in British politics, but this is something new. Farage dragged the monarchy into a sovereignty debate and made it stick. That's dangerous, that's bold, and it's exactly what he wanted."
He feels that he doesn't want him to do that with the monarchy. Now, we could be in dangerous water here.
The damage is done. Royal neutrality is now under public suspicion. Starmer is facing pressure from both the left and the right to disclose what this Trump-style agreement really entails. And Farage? He's standing tall, feeding off the chaos, painting himself as the lone man in the room willing to say the unsayable. To anyone, even a king.
Yes.
Exactly, that's why I'm telling you, because I think that it's very concerning. And if they're doing it 1, 2, 3, they seem in a terrible rush at the moment.
Whether the story fades or ignites a new political crisis remains to be seen, but the symbolism won't be forgotten. One man, one question, and one royal silence that spoke volumes.